Alright, I want to say this before it runs away because it's weird. Um, it's about believing in the power. I'm just going to use the word God here just because everyone can understand. So much so that, like, I would prefer source energy or whatever. So much so that you know nothing bad's going to happen to you, and you have this, like, I'm going to use the word courage, and that is not the right word. You have just knowing. Um, you're not scared. No fear comes over you. Something happens. Blah, 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 blah. Now, let's just call this the armor of God, just for the phrase of it. It's really, a really practice momentum, energetic momentum. Now, the thing I wanted to talk about is you can fuck yourself up. You could feel like you have this, and it would be, but if you haven't spent the amount of time it takes for your being to really get this in depth and have some years or whatever time it takes behind it to get the momentum strong enough to make sure that you always have a nice, long, pre-paved runnel of preferred reality out ahead of you for a long time, nice and thick momentum on it. You know it's not going anywhere, and it takes experience to know that. You need discernment, and you need to go through all this shit, and before you even know that's the thing to think about, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, if you have that and you know it, then you can be one of those people who have really no fear, right? Like you could stand and in the street and you know that bus ain't gonna hit you. It has a flat tire. The bus is late today. Some other kid runs out in the street and gets hit and swerves it, and you're good. Whatever happens, right? But here's the thing: you have some people that really have that zeal and then go out and get fucking ran over by a car or a bull and say, "What happened?" They were feeling it. And here's what I was thinking: they didn't. You can have that feeling and it be legit for a day, an hour, a week, a year. But if you haven't spent as much time and experience to really get discernment and really learn about pre-paving and really getting rid of all the trees in your way, really dissipating past momentums, first figuring out those past momentums, because you could have this big whopping past momentum of thick, I'm going to use the word evilness, but it's just energetic, a thick, low vibrational stuff that you don't know about, right? It's kind of subconscious. It'll come up if something triggers you or whatever. You still don't know what it is. You always get angry when this happens or this, and you just chalk up, this is who I am, or something like that, or any other kind of way that's kind of like that you can think about it, of this concept. And it will come up. You can have that day or that week, or I've been feeling good for 3 days, and I know how this reality creation goes, and I believe in God. I really feel God today, so I'm just gonna have no fear about anything. And like someone robs a bank in front of you with a gun, and you just have no fear, blah 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 blah. But you don't know that you have this whopping momentum of other shit that's about to surface because of something else. And so he still fucking shoots you in the arm or something. You don't die because you did it. You were connected pretty much. So something else happens that triggers you, brings up, dips you right into those negative emotions, and you didn't know it was there. And there was no way that your week worth or day worth or an hour worth of feeling connected was going to outrun that past momentum you had built up for so long. Now, there's true being on the positive side will have you a lot more leverage, but sometimes you guys have been whopping up these negative things for a long time of being unaware. So then they get fat, and they're gonna have to run their way through your life somehow. So you have to have the discernment to know: have you been connected, stable for a long time? Have you been watching your life and the things that seem to always be working out for you for a long time? Have you went through the process of thinking you had it down, figuring out you didn't have it, figuring out the cycles of it all, figuring out what the momentum feels like, how much focus does this much momentum, and then seeing how your life is turning out? Have you had lots of years of this to figure out that you know that you are on the path and you've crossed over the tipping point and you're staying on the path to where you're more acclimated and equivocated to higher frequencies, and the lower frequency range is still reachable, but less of it and less depth of it? You know you're there? Or are you just figuring out this stuff and you're kind of up and down, and one day you believe it, one day you don't, or 1 month is going good and then something fucked up happens the next month, you just fuck. You don't. Well, then you're not quite there yet. You haven't smoothed out all the trees. You haven't figured out your belief system, your belief structures, dissipating and momentumizing through focus, and then having your life experience prove it to you. Your life experience is always proving you something. You're always believing in something. Even if you say you don't believe in anything, you're believing in the fact you don't believe in anything. You're always believing in something. Okay? Your life experience will show you that. Until you have enough life experience to show you that notion is true, I wouldn't step out in front of that bus. I wouldn't try to fucking uh, intervene with any robbery happening, and blah, 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 you know? And courage, you know, people love courage, and universe, I even say universe, and I got it from someone else, it shows that it loves courage, because if you have courage, it will take your obstacles out of the way. But this is all words. If you are about to do something scary, and you're feeling really scared, sometimes that means don't do it. And people will pedestalize the thing of, oh, do it anyway. And sometimes it'll work out, and you'll learn something, and they'll really focus on that. But what about all the other times and all the millions of lives where it didn't work out? And it's how it usually happens. Sometimes feeling not good about something means you're not supposed to be doing it. It's that simple. And you want to fight through it with courage, and that's not the type of courage I really mean. Courage I mean is a practice courage. It's a feeling that you are all powerful, and because you have enough life experience to show you what's really going on. So it's a knowledge is power thing. It's more what I'm talking about. So it seems like you have your courage. He's not afraid of anything, but really, you just know what's going on. It's different. And then there's, and not just those two things. There's never just two things. It's that, and then everything in between to that. Infinitely. There's millions of ways. Slightly different. You can think about this. Never just black or white, unless you really believe it's just black and white, and you have that rigid mind, and then your life experience is showing you that it's just black and white, which is why you get people so. One of the reasons why you get people so adamant and arguing about something that seems so stupid to you, like they should know this. Because if they really believe it, and that's just one of the reasons. Another reason is people just try to fuck with you and all these other things too. But it could be that they really believe this thing, and if they really believe it, their universe, their whole experience, them, is showing it to them day after day that it is true. So you can't blame them for coming up to you and be like, "No, you're wrong." It gives you a new way of going. And I'm not one to debate or argue anymore, really, anyway. But it will give you a new scope on that. You'll be a lot softer about that once you know how the universe can trick you in this kind of way. Yeah, remember, you're the universe. So anyway, this went off on a tangent. Yeah, I'm not really one to argue anymore, you know. I'll state what I believe to be true. If I'm saying something, it's because my life experience, just like you most probably, has showed me that it's true. And so I'm saying it. But then if someone comes on and like, well, this is what I believe, or this is that, it then doesn't put me in a debating mode. That is not the kind of person I am anymore. I never really was that way too much to begin with. Only colored by the society I lived in. No, I'm saying what I believe to be true. And depending how you come off, we might have a little interesting conversation about what you believe to be true, and then we can mish and match. But I'm not going to say, no, you're wrong, and here's why. Or whatever. That's not even interesting to me. Because I know how the universe works. And right and wrong aren't really what's going on here. Not really. So there's no reason really to debate in that kind of sense of the kind of arguing of just, this is my point of view and let me prove it, kind of way. You can come at it in a more interesting, more conversational way if both people know enough about reality to know that if someone has a belief, their experience showed them that, and they're not just saying it. So you gotta have a little more respect. Even if belief is like, what? You believe you create your own reality and all you gotta do is focus on your feeling by it? That's stupid. You know what I mean? Which is what I would have said 20 years ago. But my life has showed me that this is the case. This is the case. And so then someone else will say, well, no, this is what my life is like, and I believe that such and such and such and such and such and such and such. And it could be any kind of thing that works for them, and you'll be like, huh. And you can maybe go from there, and if some kind of interesting conversation that can meld both of them together. But it's never like, I'll never be like, let me prove this point. No. No reason to prove any point. No reason to prove any point. So what I usually just say is, that's an interesting way to look at it. But, not usually shut shit down. Because a lot of times they're people that do that are just unknowingly running in kind of an outdated program, a momentum that they have going they don't know about. If you notice, a lot of people, they think conversation is arguing. If they're not kind of arguing with somebody, in some kind of fashion, they're not conversating. They're not having a conversation. And if you kind of just do it in a way that doesn't follow down that route, and yes, sometimes it can make, maybe if you're not used to it, things can be a little stale because you don't have that spice of arguing with someone and wanting it to be right. You know what I mean? But once you get around that, you can have interesting stuff, and a lot better than just being black and white, two people butting heads. But people take that as a conversation. And when you don't want to do that, and you're just like, oh yeah, well that's a good way to look at it. I never thought of that before. And they're just kind of like, because they're ready to jump off the next thing. And they're like, well, he didn't really go against it, but he didn't really go for it either. What do I do? He's not arguing. I don't know how to do this. And you can just watch them squirm and like, yep, mm-hmm. And it's nothing wrong. It's just they don't know their running program. They don't know that they're just being controlled by their past momentums and that they're not really. And from another person's perspective that's higher level than me, I'm running program right now, and they look at me the same way. So it's not like I'm better than anyone or you're better or lower. No, it's none of that either. It's just what's happening, and it's interesting. It's interesting. Here we are going on a mega tangent again. What was this originally about? About believing in you believing in the power of God. Make sure you have some experience behind that before you go jump out in front of a bus or something. Okay, make sure you know what's going on before you really test that, because you might find some underlying past hang-ups, shadows, momentums you didn't know you had right at the worst timing, which is really the perfect timing. Because the universe is like, well, he's going here and here and here. Now we gotta get these shadows out of the way, but get him in there. Boom! Oh shit! Found out this about this. Oh my god! Oh shit! This happened. Oh, what the fuck? This happened. I don't believe in God anymore. And then you go off on a different track, or whatever. You know what I mean? So make sure you got some momentum behind it before you take that. Make sure your confidence is true confidence bred from focusing on your connection, not from anything else. And that takes some life experience to make sure you got right. And there will be times you think you got right, and then a year from now you'll look back like, no, I didn't have it. And there'll be lots of those, but you'll notice with enough of those that they get less and less, and the drasticness of it is less and less. Just like dissipating like an alcohol addiction or something like that. The way I did it anyway. It's all momentum and focus. Any addiction, any craving, any string of events that seems to always happen to you, any this, any that, any trigger, it's all about momentum and focus and a certain amount of unawareness and naivety. I think that's this one for another fine weed talk.